Prime Minister Narendra Modi showcased India as an attractive destination for investment in the defence manufacturing sector, saying the country is moving towards becoming one of the leading exporters of military hardware globally. Inaugurating the 14th edition of Aero India at the Yelahanka Air Force Station in Bengaluru, the Prime Minister spoke about how the defence sector has rejuvenated its defence production sector in the last 8 to 9 years. Defence exports have increased 6 times, crossing the figure of $1.5 billion, looking now to further increase the export of military hardware to $5 billion by 2024-25. The Prime Minister also described Aero India as an example of India's growing potential, saying it's not only a show, but a reflection of India's self-confidence and capabilities. Being held under the theme, The Runway to a Billion Opportunities, Aero India 2023 is seeing the participation of over 100 countries. More than 800 exhibitors from India and abroad are taking part in the event. So what's the focus this time? The significance of the event in India's growing prowess and potential, our defense partnerships with other countries, and much more in this edition of Perspective with an illustrious panel. So let me begin by introducing them to you. With me in the studio is Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena, retired, former Director General, Corps of Army Air Defence. He's also Distinguished Fellow, VIF and Clause. General Saxena, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you with us in the studio. And joining us virtually is Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava, retired. He's a defence expert. And Mr. Pavitra Goyal, he's Head Marketing and Strategy, Lohia Aerospace and Defence. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program as well. AVM Srivastava, if I may begin the program today with you. You know, air shows and the Aero India show is always a treat to the eyes. So this time also, the inaugural show, we were all mesmerized, spellbound by the mid-air maneuvering that was taking place, by the newer formations that we got to see. But what's intriguing and what I want to understand from you is what began as only an air show, something that was, you know, meant to attract a lot of viewers and also to show the capabilities of India's defense sector, how it's been, you know, it's grown in significance, so much so that the Prime Minister, in his speech, described Aero India as a launch pad for India's growing prowess, for India's growing potential and capabilities. So as someone who's been witnessing the Aero India show since 1996 when it was, you know, conceptualized, how do you see that transformation to today when the event assumes so much significance?
Nina, you said it absolutely in the apt words that in 1996 it was more of a visual delight for the viewers that something like this is happening in our own country. And then it became the business delight for the foreign manufacturers who wanted to sell their aerospace assets to our country. And now I see a great emphasis on our own weapon systems being showcased. I think that's a paradigm shift in this particular version of the Aero India in 2023. And that takes us to a great kind of leap forward as a country we are concerned. Because if you want to sell platforms, you ought to harness lot of things. You have to have a great ecosystem supporting the whole system. Because I have been in this industry as I was also Director of Production for Bharat Dynamics Limited. So I know what we used to do and what we are trying to do now. We used to assemble things based on the semi-knockdown kit versions, and that was not the technology harnessing, it was the production process harnessing. So they became a good platform, but it was then limited only up to the public sector because the orders used to go on nomination basis and they were mostly harvested by the public sector. Public sector was the beneficiary, but then unless you really rejuvenate the private sector along with it, we were convinced that we cannot achieve the national progress in this sector. Right. And that's what was done with the policies with the new government. But we came up with a strategic partnership policy. We changed our DAP. It became acquisition instead of being a procurement procedure, acquisition procedure. Acquisition at the capacity building in the sense that we want to now build these platforms in our own country. Of course, we, like any other country whosoever takes the charter of going on this trajectory will face a lot of challenges in terms of ecosystem, in terms of R&D availability, in terms of technology availability. We are also facing the same. But I see the green shoots, not only the green shoots, I would say green plants coming out of it. And if you really see from the spectrum, The war fighting spectrum, if you see in the aerospace domain, whether it is about satellites, it's about launch vehicles, that is space, or it is about the unmanned air vehicles in terms of combat, surveillance, and intelligence gathering, or you come to air to ground to air defense systems, or you come to Rudram 3, which is anti radiation kind of thing, where you can destroy the air defense network of the enemy. With all that coming in place, as far as the aerospace domain is concerned, we are trying to put a mark in each one of these layers. And that is an absolute delight to see. So if you really ask me, probably next time we'll answer. So the answer is that yes, from visual delight, the trajectory was to business delight for the foreign manufacturers. And now we want to make it a delight for our manufacturers, that it showcases their equipment, their weapon systems, which can be bought by other countries and which can really compete in terms of time and capability. Sorry, cost and capability.
You're right. And you know, the thrust, General Saxena, on Atmanirbharta, that was clearly visible. So the government has been walking the talk. So in terms of transforming it from a visual delight to a business delight, in terms of deregulating the sector of defense manufacturing, bringing in the private sector in a big way to contribute, and now setting newer targets. So before I go to, Mr. Goyal, to understand the role of the private sector and the kind of role that they can play in the times to come, let me understand from you, as a veteran yourself, you've seen the kind of change that has happened over the decades. So the thrust on Atmanirbharta, there have been a lot of efforts. We are now manufacturing in a big way. Not that we were not doing it earlier, but perhaps the fact that we are now creating in India and creating for other countries also. So we are forging defense partnerships with a lot of other countries. How do you see that as a success story for India's defense manufacturing sector?
To answer your question, I will use the words used by the Prime Minister yesterday. 3 words he used. He says, Bharat ki uchai hi Bharat ki sachai hai, referring to the aircraft soaring high. Right. Number 2 thing he said, Pratyaksh kim pramanam. Whatever is in front of you, we don't require to prove it. And thirdly, he talked about the state of the nation and the state of the defense industry and compared it with an aircraft. Says this government is like this aircraft combat pilot, which thinks fast, which thinks far, and which takes quick decisions. Now, connecting this Atmanirbharta and Make in India to Aero India 2023, actually speaking, this Aero India 2023 is actually standing on the twin anchor of Make in India, Make for India, and Atmanirbhar Bharat. What is the opportunity today? There are 2 opportunities. First is to showcase the indigenous technology. Number 2, make worthwhile partnership. Right. Show to the world our growth journey in defense and aerospace sector. To talk about Atmanirbharta is to create a confidence in the other guy that we are becoming self-reliant, for which the defense minister used this word, why India? Why India? He said, why India? Because of 4 or 5 reasons. He says, why India? Because India is a reliable partner, not only in terms of our developments in defense and aerospace industry, but the stability of the country and the government, number 1. Number 2, an honest intent, saaf niyat. There are no scams, there are no kickbacks in your defense deal, saaf niyat. Number 3, best innovation you will get. And fourthly, cost competitiveness. Cost competitiveness in India is 1. Another pillar of Atmanirbharta and Make in India is our MSME sector. You just now talked about 700, more than 700 Indian companies, exhibitors which are available there. Many of them are MSME. Now to connect them to a global supply chain is a very huge task. This is what Aero India is doing in a very, very big way. That it is connecting the MSMEs to global supply chain. They will talk to very big players. They require there are certain companies like Zen Technologies Limited. They make simulators. Now they can connect with the big players. Do you want for your main equipment the simulator support which we can do? Because Zen Technology is the front runner, Indian front runner in simulation, combat simulation and this.
So, when the Prime Minister says that Aero India is a reflection of India's aspirations, it is a launch pad for our growing potential, of our growing capabilities, What is the strength that he's referring to? What is the best that India has to offer to other countries in terms of defense or in terms of being a huge defense exporter?
We are, no, we really not call ourselves defense exporter, but I will start with, there was a document in 3rd August 2020, government released a document called the Defense Production and Export Promotion Policy, DPEPP. Right in August 2020, they set up a target that the defense manufacturing industry will achieve a turnover of 175,000 crores, which will include 25,000 crores or 5 billion of defense exports. That is the target which was set. Also, that set target was that will make the defense manufacturing industries dynamic, robust and competitive. Also, reduce import. How have we reduced import? By the positive indigenization list, by banning exports of many of the items. Secondly, indigenizing many of the items at the same time. How are we increasing our export? We are getting, today only the news is that today LCA, Argentina is one of the countries looking for an order for LCA. I am trying to say it's not only LCA, it is BrahMos, it is Akash, it is communication system, it's electronic warfare system. So many good things are available for export by Indians and Indian defense industry. Now that portion, Atmanirbharta, how as the Air Marshal was just talking about, in our defense budget this time, 2023, 5.75 lakh crore is what has been allocated. Do you know out of this 70% has been allocated to domestic industry? It is this muscle which we are strengthening. It is not only just defense, it is the microchips, it is weapon systems, it is platform, it is not only army platform, it is Air Force. What about LCA? LCA Mark 1, 1A has also Mark 2. Yes, there are delays, but at the same time, there are things. What about Akash weapon system? What about QRSAM? What about VSHORT? So many weapon systems and equipment are in the pipeline. I don't say we have arrived. I don't say we have arrived. We are on our way and we are making